Welcome to the Clause YouTube channel.
Together, we strive for a safer, secure, and more stable world.
Good evening, viewers, and welcome to the Jaipur Military Dialogue under the aegis of Clause. We'll be continuing with our immediate neighborhood discussions because it is felt and assessed that if our neighbors are good and we have relationship with them and the development is there, it is overall secure for us and it is good for the neighbors. We had discussed starting with the realignment after the tariffs put by Trump, then Nepal, Bhutan, and Bangladesh, Myanmar, and today we have a very important neighbor of ours, historically connected, and not only that, strategically very important, particularly for our maritime security. And I also welcome on our discussion today Major General Vikram Singh. He is a geopolitical expert, strategic expert on international affairs, and I think he has a good knowledge of the maritime security, particularly related to India. Welcome, General Vikram. And we also will be having on our channel Maj Gen Sudhakar Jee. He's just coming up online. Before I go to the panelist, a brief history of Sri Lanka in relation to India. Sri Lanka have been part and parcel of our historical perspective right from Bhagwan Ram's time. It is the name Sri Lanka, and around 7,000 years back, and everyone is aware what happened that time, the historical perspective, the relationships, and the Sri Lankan kingdom that time, and thereafter it continued the relationship with our the main Bharat land and Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka came into prominence again during Emperor Ashoka's time, that is around 2,500 years back, the 3rd BC. And subsequently, we have cultural and religious connections with Sri Lanka. And during the British time, Sri Lanka came under the British rule and they took Tamils from Tamil Nadu to work in the tea gardens in Sri Lanka, which later on causes strife. Our relationship have been since 1947. The issues which have been there are Tamil ethnic issues are there. We employed our Indian peacekeeping force and engagement strategic importance of Sri Lanka with MOUs have been signed between Sri Lanka and India, that is of 1987, and then there have been technical cooperation agreements between Sri Lanka and India, free trade agreements, and memorandum of mutual cooperation. One thing which I want to bring out is the geographical location of Sri Lanka. In that, India is the closest to Sri Lanka, around it is 800 plus miles. Maldives is another close by 600 plus, Thailand 1400, and Singapore 1600, and subsequently all country UAE, Arab around 1600 to 2000 miles is the distance. And the importance of Sri Lanka lies because it is an access available for the states for the passing of commercial transshipment around Sri Lanka in the Indian Ocean. Prominent among them is the Malacca Strait, Hormuz is there, Pak Strait. So it gives a commercial uh, boost to the sea lines and maritime security for India. The transshipment, commercial transshipment takes place in Sri Lanka. The bigger ships unload into the smaller ships, and it is maritime trade which is going on, and the reason why India and Sri Lanka, particularly for India, the importance of Sri Lanka is strategically more important, looking after the Indian Ocean, and it is the east-west trade which comes from Suez Canal is also in the vicinity of Sri Lanka, passes through that. That needs to be seen, and today, with the development taking place and our focus on the immediate neighborhood, we as a nation, as a Bharat, has to see that our development with Sri Lanka strategically, it has to be social, commercial, and I would say more important is the maritime security aspect needs to be seen. The two ports are there in Sri Lanka which are important, Colombo and Anbambota. So that also developments have to be seen how it is to be controlled, and the influence of Chinese is the one which brings us to a focus on how far, how fast, and what good relationship we can have. With that, I also welcome Major Gen Sudhakar Jee, an expert on geopolitical and international affairs. He has been a prominent figure in all the discussions we've been having on the Jaipur Military Dialogue under the aegis of clause. Once again, welcome to Major Gen Sudhakar and Major Gen Vikram. With this, first I'll go to General Vikram to bring out the issues of the location and historical perspective and the related relationship between India and Sri Lanka as on date. Over to you, General Vikram.
Thank you very much, Birendra sir. Good evening to you. Good evening to all the listeners and viewers. Good evening, Sudhakar sir. Nice to be with you on the panel. Of course, when you have such an accomplished geopolitical specialist as General Sudhakar, I don't think you need anybody else to speak. But yes, I will do my two bits. And yes, Sri Lanka has always been important to the regional security. See, if you go back in times when the Britishers were there, the French also came. Everybody has tried to have a hold in this island nation. It is only because of one specific reason, and that is because it is so strategically located in the Indian Ocean that all the routes of energy and other related trade pass in the vicinity of this region, of this island, southern tip of this island. Uh, I think approximately 80% of India's energy comes through these straits. So whether it is the Arabian Sea, whether it is the Bay of Bengal, whether it is the Malacca Straits, the Sunda Straits, Lombok, or Hormuz, wherever you see this, any person who holds a, a post or a position or a port or a station in Sri Lanka has the ability to control the movement in this area. So that is why Sri Lanka becomes very important. For us as a country, Sri Lanka has always, all our neighboring countries are very important, and relations with them help us in our stature, in our growth as a regional power and a South Asian power, a Southeast Asian power. We need to have good relations with all these neighbors, and Sri Lanka being the one of the most important ones, because now, as we all know, it is now being coveted by China also, because China over the years, when its navy has the People's Liberation Army's navy has grown over the years, and now they have more or less inching towards a blue water navy. So they also need to have bases in the vicinity, and that is why that famous U.S. Term which came up of the string of pearls strategy, which they had undertaken to ensure that they have bases in the Indian Ocean region, starting from Africa, Asia, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, downwards, so that they have control. They have some, positioning in this region. Sri Lanka, unfortunately, has gone through troubled times. Historically, it was when the Tamilian strife started, when the LTT got active, and it went through a major churn in its internal security situation, and then got India also involved with the IPKF, and those troubled times saw a lot of deterioration in the economic condition, and a lot of infrastructure was destroyed in this process. However, subsequently, when they achieved success in these operations, they needed to rebuild, and that was a major activity which the country had to undertake. Unfortunately, at that point of time, because of whether it was the humanitarian reasons or whether it was the Geneva Convention reasons, a lot of the traditional donors pulled out of putting their money in Sri Lanka, and that is where India also did try to step in, but China took a big step, and they grabbed the opportunity and actually came down with a lot of sops and brought in a lot of money into into Sri Lanka, and that is where I think the Chinese angle also came into Sri Lanka, and they saw it as an opportunity to bring their positioning into this region. And as we all know, China has the debt diplomacy, wherein they have this. They will bring in a lot of money. They will, bring it with a lot of high rates of interest, and then they will sort of, bulldoze their way into getting the way they want. And so, initial years when the countries, whether it was African countries or the Sri Lanka and these countries who needed money, they saw the money coming in and they grabbed at it. And over the years, they realized that it's not a win-win situation, and that is how you would see that Africa is now slowly pulling out. But in Sri Lanka, I think they've been able to, uh, embed themselves in a pretty strong manner, and that is where we stand today. And I think I leave it here for Gen Sudhakar to please come in and put in his points. Over to you, Birendra.
Thank you, Jan Vikram. Very rightly brought out the aspect of importance of Sri Lanka for India, and particularly the location which is there in the Indian Ocean, and it gives us a lot of advantages being close to Sri Lanka and Sri Lanka being close to us. I would say that we have Sri Lanka, Andaman Nicobar Islands, and we have Maldives. So all these places which are there, it is an extension, I would say, for the maritime security of Bharat. With this, I will request General Sudhakar Jee to bring out the aspect of the strategic importance of Sri Lanka and the present, past, and the future vision what Bharat should and India should do and develop better relationship with Sri Lanka. Over to you, sir.
Good evening, Birendra.
Good evening, sir.
Actually, must compliment you once again. Great going and keep it up. Also, very warm good evening to General Vikram, and very nice connecting with you through this platform. And very well spoken, sir.
Thank you,
What
sir.
I'll do,
Thank you, sir.
what I'll do is time is very important factor. So you see, I'll try to cover small parts which are relevant from the geostrategic significance of India's backyard in 21st century. So small parts. First and foremost thing is that I need to cover what is Sri Lanka geography terms. Uh, for a common man, uninitiated person, or for a normal person like me, if I have to look at Sri Lanka, first thing that comes to my mind logically, to my mind, not to everyone's mind, is कि कितना बड़ा है. So Sri Lanka is, why am I saying the size? Because it has got some connotation. It's roughly around 432 kilometers long, north south, and the width is 224 kilometers from west to east or east to west. Why am I stressing on this is, as on today, China is toying with the idea of reunification of Taiwan. It is looking around for a suitable island territory where it can validate its weapon platforms. It may take the name of Pakistan as waging a war against India, and having seen Indian Army playing an active role post Uri incident, and followed by Indian Air Force majorly during Balakot, it really expected that the Indian Navy would be playing a very important role post Pahalgam in Operation Sindoor. So, if you join the dots and study it in detail, you will come to a conclusion that, contrary to the perception of China, all three services were pressed into Operation Sindoor, but majorly it was the Indian Air Force and the Indian Army which played a very important role. The Navy hasn't. It was trying to see as to how the Western Board of Indian Navy going to respond to a situation like this. But nothing much happened. So in the next Pahalgam or Pahalgam like incident, I'm trying to relate it from that perspective that God forbid it should not happen, but if it happens, then perhaps China is aiming to validate its weapon platform, its command, control, concept of frontage for it. It is one frontage. For India like country, we have two and a half, somebody says three front, कोई बोलता है चार front हो गया है, but China के लिए एक ही front है. From that perspective, I'm bringing out this issue. And second issue is, as against the width of Taiwan Strait, which is around 130 kilometers to 180 kilometers, the Pak Strait is around 53 to 82 kilometers. So it is one third, less than one third, I would say, width wise, if we have to draw parallel, because I was thinking Minicoy is an island which we could draw some parallel and study, keep it more pragmatic. Second thing that I want to highlight is very quickly is how has the history treated Sri Lanka and how is it impacting now? Now, when I say, I must bring it out that all over the world, there are 77 million Tamils. India alone has got 60 million Tamils. Sri Lanka has got 4.4 million. बाकी इधर उधर बंटे हुए हैं कहीं पे. I am bringing out this issue because one of the major issues which may turn into a flashpoint between India and Sri Lanka is the Tamil issue. Second issue, why Tamil? But what has happened before the Tamils went there? Tamils actually went as laborers, as workers in the tea estate and garden and for cultivation purpose. What happened before that? The Aryans had gone into Sri Lanka in 6th century BC. It was followed by the Buddhists in 3rd century BC. That is Mahindra, the son of King Ashoka, great emperor of India. He brought Buddhism into Sri Lanka. It was followed by South Indian Emperor Chola dynasty, Raja Chola in 993 BC. And Sri Lanka was thereafter colonized by the Portuguese in 1505. They ruled it till 1656. However, the British, they came in 1805 and they ruled it under the rule from 1815. Thereafter, in 1948, Sri Lanka became independent. Why am I bringing out this aspect is that there was a considerable length of time wherein Sri Lanka was exposed to the European lifestyle. Dutch, Portuguese, Dutch, English. This is a very important aspect. Religion, I am not taking up. Indirectly, I am hinting. There is something that we need to understand. So, Hindu and Tamil language, there are two things which actually predominantly played a very important role. And turning point, as far as I am concerned, as per my study, was the constitution when it was framed in 1972. That constitution actually created the serious fault line. And that serious fault line was about the language. Please correct me if I am wrong. I am also a student like anybody else. the language because the Tamils felt cheated. They felt cheated because the Sinhalese had been taken as one of the principal languages, also religion, apart from Buddhism. The Tamil cause, although at the cost of annoying some people, I am bringing out this issue because unless when you go to a doctor, you have an option to diagnose the disease or the symptom. Unless you diagnose the disease, you cannot prescribe medicine correctly. So therefore, we need to identify the correct problem. That particular issue, by and by, has gained momentum. There is a 13th Amendment based on which the Constitution has been framed and formulated in a manner. 9 provinces, federal structure, and the Tamils are supposed to be given, they're entitled to certain rights and privileges, which has not been done so far, which continues to remain as a pending point for resolution between India and Sri Lanka. I hope I'm right till now. Both of you are experts. Don't look at me because this is a teething problem for which we have to find a solution. Okay, so having covered that, rest all issues I'll cover later. But one important issue I want to bring out is Haman Tota. Haman Tota, if you look back at one point in time in 1997, if I recall and respect my memory, it had been offered to India. We declined. At that point in time, we thought we had just shaken up and woken up from liberalization in 1991. Economy was in doldrums. We did not have 15, how much they were asking? 15 billion or 15, some million dollars. India did not have that kind of money. We said, sorry, it doesn't fall in the priority list of India. So the point that I'm trying to highlight is, even if you're going around with a begging bowl, there are some strategic decisions which have to be taken, keeping in view the visionary requirement dictated by the security imperative. While India had no money, but there was an offer at that point in time that Haman Tota could have been taken by India. And China was waiting to grab the opportunity. It took the nearby airport. I have been to the airport myself. Uska naam मैं भूल रहा हूँ, 18 kilometers दूर है. After a great deal of negotiation, we have taken that airport back from Sri Lanka. It is in our possession today, to the best of my knowledge and understanding, simply to keep an eye on Haman Tota. Haman Tota में कोई आता जाता नहीं है. There are not enough number of ships who are docking, nor are the aircrafts coming to this airport. I hope and pray that the airport is with us, because I was handling with this case that the airport should be taken back by India as early as possible. Lest there is going to be a strategic coup against the requirement of India's security in our backyard. I'll not discuss about the what is that island 1974 में दिया था Kativichu. Kativichu है ना island का नाम, Birendra. I'll not discuss. I'll take it as settled. That was another blunder committed by our leadership. We have been extra magnanimous. We have given out things which we shouldn't have. Little while back, I was giving an interview to one of the global think tank, some global digest, Korea mein located hai. They asked me a question: why did you surrender Aksai Chin? I said it's a blunder committed by us. It's a blunder. We have gone to the extent of telling our people in the parliament that not a blade of grass grows there, therefore we should not attach importance. That's bloody stupid thing to do. So therefore, what I'm saying, this island is gone, it is settled for good, but if it can be taken back, then it calls for celebration. Now come to the Park Strait. Park Strait, I have told you what is the distance. Haman Tota. Haman Tota is approximately 10 nautical miles. 10 nautical miles means 1 nautical mile is 1.852 kilometers. 10 will be, so 18.5 kilometers away from the main established sea lanes of communication. When I say sea lane of communication, it is defined from Persian Gulf to Malacca Strait, passes through 9-degree channel between Minicoy Island and Lakshadweep. That Minicoy Island and Lakshadweep, it's a stretch of almost about how much? 270 kilometers. That stretch. Depth is around 2,700 meters. And you have almost about 70% of vessels, global vessels, actually cargo. 40% of the trade, global trade passes through this. China earlier used to have 900 billion worth of trade annually. It has crossed 1 trillion. India, as far as India is concerned, 90 to 95% of our trade passes through maritime routes. Export, I'm talking about. 55% goes through Malacca Strait to South China Sea and Asia Pacific, and 45% goes through Suez Canal. 83% of energy of China passes through from A, B, C, D, let's say the sea lane of communication, from Persian Gulf through the 9-degree channel, through 10-degree channel, Malacca Strait, then East China Sea. The distance between Persian Gulf to Malacca Strait is around 6,000 kilometers, 6,750, takes around 7 days time. From Malacca Strait to East China flank takes another 7 days. So why am I bringing out this point? Tota, it may be important, may not be important. Look at the vision of China for selecting a site like this. When you talk about the string of pearls, amongst the string of pearls to include, you have China का एक है म्यांमार में जिसको बोलते हैं सिटवे के ईस्ट में, it's called a Chakpu, written as Kyapku, K-Y-P-A-U. It is pronounced as Chapku. Chapku there, Tota here, Cuckoo's Island there. You know where Cuckoo's Island is. Just about shortest distance is 17 kilometers from the northern tip of Andaman archipelago. Okay, and 224 odd kilometers from the Myanmar border. Then you have Gwadar, and from Gwadar, which nobody is talking, they have come into, China has come into Karachi also. Also, there is a place called as Gwadar, say it is around 100 some kilometers. Some Jiwani port. So they are exploring, China is exploring which are the deep ports where they can go and establish. If Gwadar doesn't come their way, if USA tries to throw out China from the entire district, despite having paid up the money, they have gone in for 40-year agreement with Pakistan. But the way the insurgency or the militancy is actually spreading, it is anybody's guess. And today only, look at the flip-flop USA has done. Few days back, they had announced Balochi Liberation Army to be a global terrorist organization. Today, they have gone against China and Pakistan. In the UN resolution 1297, 1999 ka resolution hai. USA has said, USA, UK and France, they are not in agreement. They have not gone along with the proposal given by China and Pakistan. So you can well understand the flip-flop going on. So therefore, this particular Tota, it assumes importance. It has been given to China for 99-year lease because Sri Lanka got into a debt trap. India has paid to the tune of almost $4.2 billion to take Sri Lanka out of the debt trap, plus many other assistance, line of credit, lots of things have been given. Now, how is this bonhomie taking place? Way back when the British India Empire was there was an agreement signed between China and Sri Lanka, and that agreement is called a Rubber Rice Agreement 1952. Rubber is to be produced in Sri Lanka in abundance. Rice is to be produced in China. So they used to have through barter system or some kind of system. They used to get it renewed. This agreement is to be renewed from time to time. Another thing I wish to highlight here is that China and Sri Lanka they had a maritime agreement in July 1963, which had provided for most favored nation treatment for contracting parties, commercial vessels engaged in cargo and passenger services to and from these two countries or a third country. And last point in this part, which I wish to cover, is Colombo, importance of Colombo. You have a port also to the eastern part of Sri Lanka. It's called it Trincomalee. Trincomalee used to be, it used to be during the British India, the undivided British India Empire, it used to be the naval headquarters of the complete allied forces in Trincomalee. At one point in time, may not have been there permanently. I don't know the latest. You people may be connected. India has been trying its best to take Trincomalee back. In Colombo, there are a number of terminals. China has already taken one terminal. That is the place where 2-3 years back they had a spy vessel which came and docked. They had a submarine which came and docked. They had a normal commercial cargo type vessel which came and docked there, which we have registered. The present government of Sri Lanka, we have prevailed upon them that security at no cost can be compromised. The Sri Lanka present government has given some kind of undertaking and assurance that the security concerns of India are going to be addressed totally. That is how you find the president made a visit. I saw in one of the news items, the president of Sri Lanka had gone on a quiet visit to that small Kathavichu island. I don't know what is the rationale behind it, but if he's been there, if there is a talk going on, some kind of a track to kind of a development taking place, we should take this island back. If we do not take this island back, then China, I'm afraid, is going hammer and tongue to take Kathavichu island back. It will start exploiting in a manner, it is too close to 34 odd kilometers from our coastline. So these are the sensitivities I thought I must highlight. And last but not the least in this part, I think I have covered all the important issues, is the issue that the turning point as far as the geopolitics, as far as the stability of Sri Lanka and host of other issues, as far as the relationship between India and Sri Lanka is concerned, as per my understanding, was the tenure of 2005 to 2015. That Sri Lanka, when Rajapaksa was the president. This is a kind of a turning point. And thereafter, and during this phase, a very important development had taken place. No country in the world was helping the Sri Lankan army to contest against the LTTE. And it is only China which actually provided all kinds of help to Sri Lankan government with military hardware, ammunition, during the final years of country's civil war, pitting the ethnic Sinhalese dominated government against the Tamil Tigers. Now, all these have to be seen with the light of the BRI, the Belt and Road Initiative. The rough estimate that I have gleaned from my very limited research is China has put in something close to $15 billion for construction of roads, tracks, pipelines, ports, airports, hydropower projects, wind turbines, etc., etc. $15 billion in a span of 14 years. And it has done many things since 2013. Hambantota, along with 15,000 acres of land for 99 years since 2017. An oil storage facility, or Swanky Airport. Name of the airport is Matala Rajapaksa International Airport in Hambantota. That is the airport we have taken. I presume we have taken. I have got the inputs to that effect, but I don't know the actual status. People who are in uniform or who are in service, they may be knowing. We need to have a footprint there to keep an eye on the Hambantota. A coal-fired power plant, an expressway, rebuilding of main roads in war-shattered north and east, a modern performance art center, diesel railway engines, 43 new type of diesel trains and earth moving equipments, $1.4 billion US reclamation work for Colombo International Financial City Development, a financial hub home to 250,000 people as Colombo Port City projects, agreement covering highways development, enhanced cooperation in information technology, gifting of Type 053 frigate commission into China's plan in 94. Then they have unveiled a plan of 1.4 billion US dollar Colombo Port City in 2013. They built $272 million railway line to Sri Lanka. Chinese submarine surfaced a Chinese Operation South Container Terminal in Colombo Port in 2014. Likewise, many other issues. So another turning point that took place was in 2019, the Easter Sunday bombing in Colombo, presence of ISIS, which people know how they contest this particular input, but I have reasons to believe that it was ISIS is an attack which was conducted by ISIS. That means our backyard is not safe. We need to be very, very careful. The ISIS is showing its ugly foot. It's not only there, the caliphate is extending across Southeast Asia, going right up to New Zealand, 8,600 kilometers extending from ISIS Khorasan, Central Asian republics, across Afghanistan, Pakistan, cutting across. It may not be a continuous kind of a caliphate, but in bits and pieces, depending on the availability of sleeper cells. So likewise, it goes on. I'll finish off all this by saying that we must keep in mind the class composition of Sri Lanka as on today. It is important. You have 82% of Sinhalese, you have 9.4% of Tamils, you have Sri Lanka more 7.9%. Number 2 point, that infamous bill which was passed in 1956, Sinhalese only bill, was an attempt to marginalize the Tamils, which continues to be a burning issue in our relationship between India and Sri Lanka. We need to find a permanent solution to that. Third highlight I wish to share is that despite all turbulence, there is some peace and calm which has returned to Sri Lanka. India has stood by the needs of Sri Lanka in critical juncture. We have given doled out a lot of money. We have given them medicine. We have given them fertilizer. We have given them food, a lot of things. So now you come to the defense security cooperation, which should actually bring my part to an end. Thereafter, we leave it back to the chair. We do exercise Mitra Shakti regularly and naval exercise called as Slinex, which is a very good thing. This is a good military to military relationship. India also provides defense training. I still remember I used to deal with the subject. We used to send people to teach language in Sri Lanka, and I have dealt with the special forces there also. I only hope and pray that we are continuing with similar kind of activities. Then there is a trilateral maritime security cooperation agreement signed between India, Sri Lanka, and Maldives, which in between had got disrupted because of unfortunate turnaround and misbehavior by Maldives, defying all norms and conventions. I will hope with the change in our stance with Maldives, things have looked up. It was basically aiming to improve surveillance, anti-piracy operations, and reducing maritime population in Indian Ocean region. In 2019, India and Sri Lanka also have concluded an agreement countering drug and human trafficking. We have presented many vessels to them. A lot of assistance have gone in. I have touched upon on the Kachativu. It is not Kachavitu, it is Kachativu Island Pact, 1974. If it is being revisited, we must get it back. There is a small little window of opportunity. If it can't be brought back, we need to think about a counter strategy. Sooner or later, you will find China there. And there is a comprehensive economic partnership agreement, which I presume has been signed. I didn't have much time to actually check up. If it has not been signed, then we should go overboard and double down our effort to get it signed, because this has got a lot of meaning and implications with Sri Lanka. Basically, the ferry services, I think I'm given to understand by my friend that the proposal which was hanging fire for quite some time with regard to the ferry services between India and Sri Lanka to improve people to people linkages has started after lots of dilly dallying. If it has not started, then we need to start. I don't have a confirmation. And there are many problems which our fishermen are facing. These small little issues of fishermen problems should be resolved permanently by taking some effective measure between the two countries. And also, uh, we need support of Sri Lanka to emerge as a blue water navy in the Indian Ocean in pursuing our permanent membership in United Nations Security Council. These are the few points. And to conclude, I would say Indian neighborhood, immediate neighborhood, is turning out to be a ring of fire. In order to address the ring of fire and also reduce the strategic rivalry in the Indian Ocean today between multiple stakeholders. If I name a couple of countries, most of us will get surprised. Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, such like countries, they have started actually exploring and putting vessels into the seas, Indian Ocean. China, which is to have one odd surveillance ship or maybe one submarine across Malacca towards Indian Ocean. Today, as on today, it has got 3 submarines. It has got more than 3 surveillance ships. It has got a substantial total number of ships or vessels which are floating around in Indian Ocean as against 1 and 2 prior to 2014 has crossed a figure of 9 or 10 as on today. The latest in the evening I was checking up, it is coming to around 11 or 12 of them. In addition, China has got a concept of distant fishing vessels. Distant fishing vessels south of Hambantota, out of the EEZ of Sri Lanka, out of the EEZ of Maldives, out of the EEZ of Oman, and such like countries, you find good number of fishing vessels doing fishing. And all the fish material, they go to Hambantota or they go to Maldives, the airport, and they're transported by air to the mainland of China. So these are the couple of issues. The point that I want to highlight, India alone will not be able to address the kind of emerging threats which is taking place in the backyard. It may be the backyard of India, but sooner or later it may turn out to be a flashpoint. And therefore, we need to take help of countries, like-minded countries like France, Russia, UK, Japan, Australia, and hence that concept of Quad assumes importance. America also plays a very important role. I'm given to understand all these countries that I have taken, maybe a couple of more, they have chipped in their contributions in some manner towards our effort in order to counter the deep penetration China has made in form of BRI into Sri Lanka. That's all. Thank you so much. Back to you, Virendra.
Thank you, sir. Very well analyzed and covered the aspects of Sri Lanka's strategic importance in relation to the maritime security, commercial activities, the relationships, and what all I would say the opportunities missed by us and the opportunities coming up now. That is needs to be seen, and upcoming of China's involvement in Sri Lanka and adjoining areas, which needs to be nullified. And yes, the countries in and around the Bay of Bengal, the Arabian Sea, Indian Ocean, that is a thought process that needs to be addressed. And with that, I'll come to General Vikram. Uh, Vikram, can you throw some light on the aspect of maritime security, maybe the future vision, Andaman Nicobar command of ours, and what needs to be done to counter check, or I would say checkmate, the developing situation in the Indian Ocean. Over to you, General Vikram.
Thank you, sir. I think what is important for us that we have to accept the fact that Chinese presence is there in the Indian Ocean, and they have enough reasons to be there. And even if they may be stating it as commercial activities, it doesn't take too much of action time to convert them to military activities, and they have the arm twisting capability and the leverage available to them, which in be it Sri Lanka, Hambantota, be it in Gwadar, be it in Kangphu, they have the arm twisting leverage. So we have to accept the fact, and I think the government has slowly realized the importance of now paying attention to the Andaman Nicobar Islands and Lakshadweep Islands, and like Major General Sudhakar was saying, that Katavichu Island. So these are the key places where we have the space available, and we just need to develop it in a manner so that we can project our navy and air force from these islands. So Andaman Nicobar, I think Nicobar Islands, as was highlighted by General Sudhakar, it is now they have an airstrip operating there, but uh, for operations of that kind, we need to first develop our own capabilities. Our own air force is today, the way they are looking at the drop in numbers, and we are wanting to strengthen the squadrons that we need to have. So that is one aspect which we need to harp on, is to build our air force, keeping in mind that the Chinese threat not only exists in the north and northeast, it is also now a realistic threat in the south, in the Indian Ocean. So when you are doing your calculation of numbers or of resources, we need to accept the fact that this is a new front which is opening up, and we need to be prepared for it. In terms of naval ships, our ports in the Andaman Nicobar, I don't think they're at the moment able they are not handling our warships, destroyer class warships, or our aircraft carriers, those kind of things. So we need to start looking at deep sea ports there, so that we can harbor these kind of platforms, and be able to maintain them and sustain them off these islands. Because as of now, if I what little I know, I think they operate either of the western and eastern coast from Visakhapatnam, or from our Karwad base. But we need to understand that Navy will has to come into a big way with its with aircraft carrier platforms, as also its land-based vectors operating from Andaman Nicobar, and maybe if in the future Lakshadweep can also be developed. Because at the moment, the Chinese have an access through Gwadar to the Arabian Sea, and through Kyakfu or Chowfu, as the Burmese call it, in the Bay of Bengal. The CPEC, which starts from Gwadar, or the CMEC, the China Myanmar, which starts from Kyakfu, these two with these two ports in their control, they have the ability to continue dominating that area. And the way they are building their ships, nobody expected Chinese to be, when I think I was in the strategic planning, in the perspective planning director those days, it was called, when the first when they bought a scrapped out vessel of just the platform for the aircraft carrier, the Navy, they sort of snickered, and they said, how soon will they be able to, get this floating? And I think within the year they had their floating trials done, and within the next 18 months they had the aircraft landing on the deck. So the speed at which they are developing their platforms, and the only thing which was holding them back from being a blue water navy was a superpower was not having a blue water navy, which they have very steadily and in a planned manner reached a stage where they can now project outside the South China Sea. So it is important. It is important, not important. It is imperative that we start developing the Andaman Nicobar Command to be able to handle a threat of the nature which China can bring to bear through its naval platforms, and understand that, like I said earlier, Gwadar and Kiangfu both can be just very easily converted to naval or military action ports. It doesn't take too much of. They've already got roads and pipelines emanating from there towards their mainland. I mean, they can bring in all the fuel and the resources from the mainland there, and base their ships over there. We need to understand that, and it is very important that we take care of this situation by developing our own force levels in this region. And of course, we need to, like Gen Sudhakar was time and again saying, we need to pull back Sri Lanka from the Chinese clutches. I think the Prime Minister's visit this year in April has done a lot of positive steps, but I think they are already Hambantota. I think they've got a lease of 99 years, which I know they will not be able to probably pull out. And Katavichu Island is definitely a area of concern, because all our fishermen are getting caught in that area, and most importantly, I reiterate what General Sudhakar said, is the Tamil issue. This is an issue which will continue to bug us because of the strength of Tamilians that we have, and the kind of affiliation and affinity they have with the Sri Lankan Tamils. It is a hotbed of problems, and unless we find some real solutions to this, whether it is through getting them to accept the Tamil language as a part of their in their constitution, or give them earlier they were supposed to give them some councils, but I think that didn't work out. So I mean, that is a thing which we need to pitch for if we want to have a stable relationship with Sri Lanka, and we need to pull them out of the grasp of the Chinese, and that is only possible if we get back into Trincomalee and the airport, Verizon Airport. I mean, that's the common colloquial name, but of course now they call it with the name of the Rajpaksha family. I think they've got it. So that's where I stand. I think we need to understand that it is a threat in being, and we cannot run away from it. We have to develop our resources, our force levels to that extent, and start thinking of this area also as a need for resources when we are building our force structures for the future. Back to you, Birendra sir.
Thank you, General Vikram. Very well covered the aspect of the development, and the point which you brought out is very relevant. We have been not looking at the Lakshadweep Islands. And there's a need that also be to be developed in a way that it is militarily and rectangle location. It has to be there. With this, I'll go to certain questions which are there. One is by Mr. Akash have put in. He was saying after the sea lanes are there, then is a Operation Sindoor, the aspect of Sri Lanka. So he's saying that the safety of sea lanes and navigation, which I think one have covered. General Sudhakar Jee have done that. Then Mr. Kothari is also put in. Power play of vital sea lanes is being played out. Rapid plan is there, and we also have Keating giving out that Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, they are actually the Indian sentiments in some amount, despite what all we do. So I'll request General Sudhakar Ji to cover them. Most of them you have covered, sir. And it is basically Akash who's asking, Mr. Akash is asking. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, you see, how I would respond is India is a 4.18 or 19 trillion US dollar economy today. In foreseeable future, we are hoping to reach a target of, let's say, uh, 7 or 8 trillion by 2030. By 2035, maybe 10 trillions. And let's say by 2047, we hope that it will multiply. More the money, faster will be the multiplication. And larger is the GDP, and your larger would be the pie or the share towards the defense budget. So, as in today, despite saying very conservative way of replying to budget allocation, I would still say that our defense budget is not measured by uh, percentage of GDP. Defense budget is always measured by the percentage of annual expenditure by the government of India. It is called a central expenditure of the government of India, which earlier, way back in 2012-13, it used to be touching a figure of 16.04% or something around that. Now, if I'm not wrong, it has come down to a lesser percentage. It is between 11.9 to 12. That's the right way of assessing. Although people countered me by saying that no, 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 there is no dearth. We have been giving whenever and whatever is required by the armed forces, we have been giving money. So, my counterpoint to this is that if you give allocating money on ad hoc basis, you will keep having things on ad hoc requirement basis. Security per se is such a subject that it has to be done on the paradigm of long term perspective plan. Long term perspective plan has to be based on a particular plan, a strategy, and that strategy is the national security strategy as a document. While you may have raised a lot of issues, I'm totally with you that it's a matter of concern. You have touched upon Bangladesh, Maldives, this place, and Nepal. We haven't discussed. Maybe after we discussed last, many things have taken place. Today there was a discussion with IRRF, which is also an extension of clause. In the morning, I happened to be there. We had got some leaders of Gen Z from Nepal, professor, and etc. etc. There was a general officer also in the discussion. The key issue is that there is a bigger plan which is not visible to the people. There is a strategic rivalry taking place, and there are fault lines existing. So those fault lines are being taken advantage of. So having said all this, there is a requirement to carry out long-term planning, and towards that end, I think the present dispensation of the government is going extra mile. It's doing a lot. And today only, I was on the TV channel a few minutes back. Our Honorable Prime Minister is making, he's already visiting Gujarat, going to places of maritime infrastructure development. And in order to respond to your this thing, let me also give it out by 2030. As in today, we have just 700 some billion of export. By 2030, we are trying to reach a target of $2 trillion worth of export. In order to achieve that, as on today, we are working on 12 independent corridors, including two defense corridors. And sorry, two independent corridors. One is Tamil Nadu, the other one is Kanpur. And from there, we have to actually upgrade ourselves to at least 26 corridors. This is what the plan is. So, including minor ones, it comes to 12, but by 2030, they have to 26 corridors. And as on today, we have 13 major harbors in India, 199 minor harbors. If you compare that with China, China has got, as against our 13 major harbors, they have got 34. And as against 199 minor harbors, they have got 2,000. So amongst these harbors, if you carry out little eye for detail, go little more into the specifics, you see there are India's capacity as on today is 20 million TEU. TEU is that 20 feet um, container size, 20 feet by 8 feet by 8 feet. That is how you measure the shipbuilding capacity and your maritime capacity. As against 20 million that India has, China has got 270 million TEU. Look at the difference. So today I said 90 to 95% of our export is through maritime, and our dependence on the foreign vessels is 95%. What happens if all the ships and the vessels are embargoed or withheld? How do you carry out your export? We have just about 1,500 ships. In the global level, you have 1,20,000 major ships available. We have been borrowing, hiring these ships. So there is a requirement. Government of India has made plans to go in for at least 1,000 more ships by 2030. So that means what do you have for cargo transportation? Around 5% of the total global depends, 5% or 0.5% maybe. Similarly, shipyards. We have 27 major shipyards. China has got 170 shipyards. These things, they matter. And when you come to the naval capability, I am given to understand by my study and research, maybe General Vikram will have some specific updates. I'm given to understand there are 135 vessels available with us. I'm talking about the combat, the frigates, destroyer, frigates, all put together. We are trying to reach a figure of 170 warships or maybe 200 warships by 2030-35. Whether it is possible or not, I really can't comment. But we need to speed up. But look at the speed with which China is producing the ships. Every year they are taking out 26 to 27 ships. Whereas in our case, we take anything between 5 to 10 years. So therefore, we need to look into all these micro aspects as to where can we speed up? What are the issues that we need to look into? And likewise, if you go further into the details, what comes out is, yes, this year we have made an allocation of 25,000 crores rupees for maritime infrastructure development. Better late than never. For any country, I happen to be there with a think tank somewhere in the Western Hemisphere. There is one liner that think tank actually gave me. That one liner changed my perception. You know what they said? Let me just share before you go for the concluding remarks. I had written it down. They said that the destiny of the world in 21st century will be decided on its waters. The second line they shared with me was, they took example and name of Admiral Alfred Mahan, which I don't agree. It is not. In staff college also we used to keep saying that it is who said that whoever controls the Indian Ocean dominates Asia. It is not he who said. It is generally out of the findings, carrying out a strategic analysis. And this ocean is the key to 7 seas. And lastly, before I hand over the floor to you, I think this is a book which I showed last time. Did I? Can you see this?
Not this one, not you had shown another one. It's okay.
This is a book, Monsoon, Indian Ocean, The Future of American Power, by Professor Robert Kaplan. He says in 21st century, the commercial basket of the world will gravitate towards Indian Ocean. There are more than 500 million customers or consumers in Indian subcontinent. 500 million, it is going up by leaps and bounds, who have got the expending or buying capacity of $12 or more per day. I'm not saying this. It's the United Nations authorized agency who's saying this. China has got 787 odd million. And by 2035, our consumer base would have overtaken China. This consumer base is the main factor because of which, and the geostrategic importance of India, USA cannot do without India to achieve or fulfill its global objective of containing, countering, and if push comes to shove, contesting China as a rising power. Because the Thucydide trap amply brings out that no established power will ever allow any rising power to come near its footing. Thank you. Back to Virendra.
Thank you, sir. Jan Vikram, anything?
Hey, thank you so much, sir. I think it was a very interesting thing, and we need to understand that it is important for us to realize that our neighbors are important. I think we went through a phase. General Sudhakar, in his passing, had mentioned the country had gone through a phase where we were not at all looking at our neighbors in any positive manner, and that created nearly a bad situation in Bhutan. Bangladesh, we are still trying to get back. Sri Lanka, same thing. Nepal, same thing. All these things have, it's our own doing. I mean, that's my personal feeling. We could have handled it better, but it's now within the present dispensation of the political hierarchy that we have. I think we are moving in the right direction, and we should be able to get ourselves back because China is marching. Let's not uh, Jan Sudhakar was giving the numbers. China is marching, and when I was in the perspective planning, I read somewhere that they still don't call themselves a superpower. They have said they will become a superpower in 2050, and not before that. That is the time they say they will challenge. I read it in one of their documents that they will challenge US supremacy by 2050. And they are on the line. They are marching along, unless, of course, that's a different subject of discussion, whether they will implode before that or, those things we can talk on another platform. But I think as long as we understand the importance of our neighbors and take concrete steps in the direction to get them back to our fold, we will have problems. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Jan Vikram. To conclude, I would say that today we had a very fruitful discussion. The aspect which we had been talking about right from our discussion from Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Myanmar, now Sri Lanka. I would like to coin a, a word or a sentence that around us, the nations around us, whatever size they are of, they are something like a pearl of diamonds for us. They're strong, but they are to be um, made, cut into the dimensions and the finest way so that we can utilize them. They are the diamonds around us. And that needs to be seen by us, and we can make them very strong like diamonds. So that aspect is there. With Sri Lanka, we have also discussed the Indian Ocean region, which is there, and rightly brought out that Indian Ocean. If you go back into history, Indian Ocean was a prominent place for all the trades which were used to go, and the sea lanes, the commercial lines, everything passed through the Indian Ocean. The same thing is happening now. The another aspect which was we discussed was I look at it from an angle that we have Andaman Nicobar Command, and which looks after uh, Bay of Bengal probably and the Lakshadweep Islands. We should see what all we have, and we should try to develop them as a major ports, as a major establishments in the military terms, as a major establishments in commercial terms. So Lakshadweep and Andaman Nicobar Islands, we have to look at that. And with this, I was just thinking that instead of calling a Andaman Nicobar command, we should have an Indian Ocean command encompassing ANC, the Andaman Nicobar Islands, and the Lakshadweep Island, and everything will fall into place. That means the arena needs to be increased, the vision needs to be increased. That is the issue which needs to be seen. तो पहले ये देखो हमारे पास क्या है, and we develop them accordingly. That is very important. Sri Lanka have been right from beginning a very prominent for us in terms of the security, in terms of commercial establishment, in terms of relationship, and it is somewhere the nearest, I would say, in the sea, Indian Ocean, the country which is very close to us. Ethnically, it was historically, socially, and the connectivity have been there. Ups and downs keep on occurring between the nations, not an issue. But I think we are going forward in that. Another aspect was brought out by General Sudhakar Jee was speed. I think that the speed is the one which needs to be seen. It was like General Vikram had brought it out. The speed with which things have to be done. We have to speed up our development, and that is one issue which needs to be addressed for the maritime security. And in the end, I thank again General Sudhakar Jee and General Vikram and Yuvraj in the backdrop, who is looking after our technical issues. Thanks a lot. Until we meet again, all the best. Jai Hind. I sign off. Jai Bharat.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you, sir.
Vikram.
Jain, sir. Thank you, Jan Sudhakar, sir. Thank you, Brigadier Birendra, sir.
Thank you.
Pleasure
Thank
being
you.
with you.
Thank you. Thanks
Thank you. Thank you, General Vikram. And Virendra, as always, outstanding. Keep it up.
Thank you, sir.